I knew my marriage was over the moment my wife didn't even try to hide it. Not when I saw her in our bed with another man. Not when I heard her laugh, that same laugh she used when she was with me. But when she looked straight at me, pulled the blanket over herself and said, "You weren't supposed to be home today." My name is Mark. I'm 34, and up until that Tuesday, I thought I had a solid life. My wife, Lauren, and I had been married for 6 years. No kids yet, but we were planning. We had a clean, quiet house in the suburbs, 2 cars in the driveway, shared bank accounts, and routines that felt safe. She worked as a front desk manager at a dental clinic. I worked in logistics, which meant occasional trips out of state. Nothing crazy, just a few days here and there. Looking back, I realize now how perfect everything looked from the outside. We had the kind of relationship people assumed was stable. We didn't fight much. We posted smiling photos. We showed up to dinners together. But there were things I ignored. She started guarding her phone more. Taking it to the bathroom. Flipping it face down when I walked into the room. Laughing at messages she wouldn't explain. Saying things like, "It's just work stuff," with a little too much emphasis. I noticed it. I just didn't want to believe it. About 3 weeks before everything blew up, I had a trip scheduled, for days in Chicago. Normal. Routine. I packed my bag, kissed her goodbye, and left like I always did. Except this time, something felt off. Call it instinct. Call it paranoia. I don't know. But halfway through that trip, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then on day 2, my meeting got cancelled unexpectedly. The entire reason I was there just disappeared. Most people would have enjoyed the free time. I booked the first flight home. I didn't tell Lauren. I wanted to surprise her. Yeah, surprise. I landed around noon, took a rideshare straight home, and I remember thinking how quiet the street looked. Normal. Peaceful. Nothing warned me. I unlocked the front door as quietly as I could, like I'd done 100 times before. And the first thing I heard was laughter. Her laughter. Coming from upstairs. At first, I smiled. I actually smiled, thinking maybe she was on a call, maybe watching something. Then I heard a man's voice. Not through a speaker. Not on a TV. In my house. I don't remember walking up the stairs. I don't remember taking off my shoes. Everything just went silent in my head, like my body was moving without me. The bedroom door was slightly open. And I pushed it. And there they were. In our bed. Sheets twisted. Clothes on the floor. Her hair messy in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. For a second, nobody moved. Then she saw me. Her eyes went wide, but not with panic. More like annoyance. Like I had interrupted something. The guy. I didn't know him, scrambled, grabbed his jeans, almost fell off the bed trying to stand up. But Lauren? She didn't scream. She didn't apologize. She didn't even cover herself right away. She just stared at me, then slowly pulled the blanket up and said, "You weren't supposed to be home today." That sentence hit harder than anything else. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "This isn't what it looks like." Just, that. Like the problem wasn't what she was doing. The problem was that I saw it. I remember standing there, completely still, trying to process what I was looking at. My own bedroom. My own bed. My wife. Someone else. And I felt nothing. No shouting. No dramatic reaction. Just this cold, empty clarity settling in. I looked at the guy and said, "Get out." He didn't argue. Didn't say a word. Just grabbed his stuff and rushed past me, barely making eye contact. The front door slammed a few seconds later. And then it was just me and her. Silence. Heavy. Suffocating silence. She finally spoke first. "Mark, I can explain." I held up my hand. "No," I said. "Calm. Too calm. You don't get to explain." She swallowed, pulling the blanket tighter around herself now, like modesty suddenly mattered. "It's not what you think," she tried again. I let out a small laugh. "Really?" I said. "Because it looked exactly like what I think." She looked away. And that's when I knew. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. This was something she had already made peace with. And I was just the last one to find out. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I didn't beg. I just nodded once, turned around, and walked out of the room. Because in that moment, I was already done. I didn't slam the door. I didn't throw anything. I didn't even raise my voice. I just walked downstairs like I was leaving any normal day. But the second I stepped into the kitchen, my hands started shaking. Not from sadness. From rage. The kind that sits low in your chest and doesn't explode, it just burns. I leaned against the counter, staring at the coffee mug she'd left there that morning. Lipstick still on the rim. Like nothing had changed. Like she hadn't just destroyed everything. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't a mistake. This was planned. The timing. The confidence. The fact she didn't even try to deny it. She knew exactly when I was supposed to be gone. Which meant this had happened before. More than once. I exhaled slowly, forcing myself to think instead of react. Because reacting would have been easy. Screaming. Breaking things. Letting her twist it into something emotional, something messy. But thinking? Thinking was better. Thinking meant control. A few minutes later, I heard her footsteps on the stairs. Slow. Careful. Like she was rehearsing what to say. She walked into the kitchen, now dressed, arms crossed like she was trying to protect herself. Mark, can we talk? I didn't look at her. No. She stepped closer. You're not even going to hear me out. That's when I turned. And I saw it. Not guilt. Not regret. Fear. But not fear of losing me. Fear of consequences. You already said everything you needed to say, I replied. You just didn't realize it. She frowned slightly. What does that mean? It means, I said, my voice steady, you weren't sorry I found out. You were annoyed. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Because she knew I was right. It's not that simple, she finally said. Things haven't been good between us for a while. I laughed. Actually laughed. Then you leave, I said. You don't bring someone into my house. Into my bed. It's my house too, she snapped, a little too quickly. There it was. Not remorse. Defensiveness. I nodded slowly. Not for much longer. She froze. What is that supposed to mean? I grabbed my keys from the counter. It means we're done. Mark, you're overreacting. I stepped closer, just enough to make her stop talking. Overreacting? I repeated quietly. I walked in on you with another man. In our bed. And you think I'm overreacting? She didn't answer. Because there was nothing to say. I shook my head once, then headed for the door. Where are you going? She asked, her voice sharper now. To do this properly, I said. Properly? I paused at the door, hand on the handle, and finally looked back at her. Yeah, I said. Not like you. And then I left. The drive felt unreal. Like I was watching someone else's life. I didn't go to a friend's house. I didn't go to a bar. I went straight to a lawyer. Not the next day. Not after, thinking about it. Immediately. Because I knew one thing for sure. If she could do that in my house without hesitation. Then I couldn't trust a single word she said after. The receptionist asked if I had an appointment. I said no. She told me they were busy. I said I'd wait. And I did. For 2 hours. Sitting there, replaying that moment over and over in my head. Her voice. You weren't supposed to be home today. Not, I'm sorry. That line kept echoing. Over and over. When the lawyer finally called me in, I didn't waste time. I need a divorce, I said. He nodded like he'd heard it 1,000 times. Do you have evidence of infidelity? He asked. And for the first time that day. I smiled. Yeah, I said. I walked in on it. That changed his posture a little. Good, he said. That makes things easier. Easier. I almost laughed at that. Nothing about this felt easy. But I understood what he meant. I spent the next hour going over everything. The house. The accounts. The assets. Every detail of the life we built. And how to take it apart. Carefully. Legally. Completely. By the time I walked out of that office, I wasn't shaking anymore. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused. Because this wasn't just about ending a marriage. It was about making sure I didn't walk away with nothing. While she got to pretend none of it mattered. And for the first time since I opened that bedroom door, I felt something close to control. The next morning, I didn't go home. Not because I was afraid of seeing her. Because I knew exactly what I needed to do before I saw her again. I woke up in a cheap hotel room, barely slept, staring at the ceiling for hours replaying everything. But something had shifted inside me. The shock was gone. The anger was controlled. What was left was clarity. And clarity makes you dangerous. The first thing I did was call my bank. Not our shared account. My personal one. I hadn't used it in years, but it was still active. I transferred what I legally could from the joint account, nothing reckless, nothing that could be used against me, just enough to make sure I wasn't financially exposed if she decided to get smart. Then I froze the joint credit cards. Not cancelled. Frozen. My lawyer's voice echoed in my head, document everything. Act clean. Act smart. So I did. After that, I went through every shared subscription, every bill, every account tied to both of us. I changed passwords where I had the legal right to do so, secured what was mine, and made copies of everything. Bank statements. Property documents. Insurance. 6 years of a life, reduced to files on a screen. And then came the part one didn't expect to hurt. Photos. Not the big ones. Not the vacations or holidays. The small ones. Random selfies. Lazy Sunday mornings. Her asleep on the couch with her head on my shoulder. I stared at one picture longer than I should have. She was smiling. Looking straight at me. Like I mattered. I closed the folder. Because that version of her didn't exist anymore. Around noon, my phone buzzed. Her name. I let it ring. Then a message. Can we please talk like adults? I almost laughed. Adults. Right. I didn't respond. 5 minutes later, another message. You're making this worse than it needs to be. That one made me smile. Because she still didn't get it. Still thought this was something we could talk through. Like this was a disagreement. Like I had just caught her texting someone, not. I stopped myself. No point reliving it again. Instead, I typed one message back. Talk to my lawyer. Then I turned my phone off. Not silent. Off. Because I didn't want to hear anything else from her unless it came through the proper channels. By the afternoon, I met my lawyer again. We went deeper this time. He explained timelines. Filing procedures. What I could and couldn't do inside the house. What counted as evidence. What counted as leverage. And then he said something that stuck with me. If she was that careless, there's probably more. I frowned. What do you mean? Check everything, he said. Phones, cloud backups, shared devices. People who behave like that don't usually start suddenly. So I did. I went back to the house that evening. Not to talk. Not to argue. To collect information. She wasn't there. Which made things easier. I walked in, and for a second, it felt normal again. Same couch. Same smell. Same quiet. But now it felt like a place I didn't recognize. I went straight to her office. Her laptop was on the desk. Unlocked. That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't expecting me to act this fast. I sat down and opened it. Messages. Emails. Social media. And there it was. Not just one guy. Multiple. Different names. Different conversations. Some casual. Some, not. Dates going back months. Maybe longer. I leaned back in the chair, staring at the screen, and felt something strange. Not heartbreak. Not even anger anymore. Just confirmation. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern. A choice she made over and over again. I started taking screenshots. Saving everything. Organizing it. Methodical. Cold. Exactly how my lawyer told me to be. Then I opened her email. And that's where it got worse. Hotel bookings. Receipts. Even messages complaining about me. Calling me predictable. Said he'd be gone till Friday. I actually paused at that line. Read it twice. Said he'd be gone till Friday. Like I was a schedule. Like I was something to work around. I exhaled slowly. And that's when the last bit of emotion I had left disappeared. I closed the laptop, stood up, and looked around the room one last time. This house. This life. It wasn't mine anymore. Not really. Because the person I built it with was never who I thought she was. I grabbed a few more documents, packed a bag with essentials, and walked out again. No note. No message. Nothing. Because from this point on, everything would go through the court. And I was ready. The divorce didn't take long. Not because it was easy. But because I made sure it was clean. Once the evidence was submitted, everything shifted. Her tone changed almost overnight. The messages stopped sounding defensive, and started sounding careful. Then desperate. Her lawyer reached out first. They wanted to settle. Of course they did. Because the moment those screenshots hit the table, multiple affairs, timelines, proof that she had been using our shared home and money, the narrative collapsed. This wasn't a rough patch. This wasn't miscommunication. This was documented betrayal. And in court, that matters. A lot. We sat across from each other for the first time since that day. Same room. Same table. But she looked different. Not physically. Just smaller. Less certain. Like the confidence she had when she said, "You weren't supposed to be home today," had finally caught up with her. She tried to look at me once. I didn't look back. Her lawyer did most of the talking. They pushed for asset division. Tried to keep the house. Tried to frame things as mutual breakdown. My lawyer shut it down piece by piece. Calm. Precise. Every time they tried to soften it, he brought it back to facts. Dates. Messages. Patterns. There's something surreal about hearing your life reduced to evidence. Screenshots on paper. Private conversations read out loud. But it worked. Because facts don't care about excuses. At one point, she finally spoke. "Mark. I made mistakes," she said quietly. Mistakes. I almost smiled. But I stayed silent. Because this wasn't about closure. This was about outcome. And the outcome was simple. I kept the house. I kept the majority of our savings. And she walked away with what was legally hers, but nothing more. No advantage. No control. No illusion left. When it was over, we stood up at the same time. For a second, it felt like she was about to say something else. Maybe an apology. Maybe something real, for once. But she didn't. She just nodded slightly, and left. Just like that. 6 years. Ended in a quiet room with paperwork. No yelling. No drama. Just consequences. A few weeks later, I moved back into the house. Alone. The silence was different now. Not heavy. Not suffocating. Just quiet. I changed a few things. New sheets. New furniture in the bedroom. Small details. Nothing extreme. Just enough to make it feel like mine again. People asked me if I was okay. If I was angry. If I missed her. And the truth? I don't miss her. I miss who I thought she was. But that person never existed. And once you accept that, you stop holding on. The last thing I ever heard about her was from a mutual friend. Apparently, things didn't work out with the guy. Or the next one. Or any of them. Funny how that works. Meanwhile, I kept moving forward. Work got better. Life got quieter. Clearer. Stronger. Because losing her wasn't the worst thing that happened to me. Believing she was someone she wasn't. That was. And now. Now I don't have that problem anymore. It's been about 8 months since everything ended, and I didn't think I'd ever post an update, but a few things happened that feel worth sharing. First, the house is finally mine, completely. The paperwork cleared a couple months ago, and there's something strange about walking through it now. It doesn't feel like our place anymore. It actually feels like mine. Quiet, but in a good way. Second, I started seeing someone. And before anyone jumps to conclusions, no, it wasn't fast. I spent months just focusing on myself. Work, routine, clearing my head. I didn't even think I could trust anyone again. But then I met her through a mutual friend. No drama, no games, no weird secrecy. The first thing that stood out. She leaves her phone face up. Sounds stupid, but after everything, that matters. I'm taking it slow. No rushing, no big promises. Just, normal. And honestly, that's all I wanted. As for Lauren, I heard she moved out of state. No idea with who, and I don't really care anymore. That chapter is closed. The biggest change isn't my life though. It's me. I don't ignore red flags anymore. I don't explain away things that feel wrong. And I don't stay where I'm not respected. If anything, what happened didn't break me. It reset me. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. I post new Reddit stories about cheating, relationships, and crazy life situations every day. And if you have a story like this, feel free to share it in the comments.